We know that that's not for the hoppers, but that's for what God has done. I was actually carrying Lexi during that time when we got to go to Israel and sing that inside the city walls. And the doctor really didn't want me to go, but I knew that there was something so special there. I hadn't been at that time in 10 years. And I knew that I just needed to be renewed on the promises of God and see His handiwork. And we went there and got there safe and got home safe. And then a few weeks later, I figured out why I had such a longing to go, and that was, got a call on a Sunday night. It was my mom, and as soon as Dean answered the phone and stood up and hung it up and looked at me, I knew. And I said, "My daddy's gone, isn't he?" He said, "Yes." The paramedics worked on him for a long time, but they never got anything. And I said, "God, that's why I wanted to go, isn't it? To be reminded that my dad's now resting on the banks of that river and running where angels have trod." And it was special to me because my dad's there tonight. And then about 6 weeks after that, I went into premature labor. I got to the hospital that night, and the doctors told us about all the things that could be wrong. And as Dean told you, Lexi came into the world. She was perfect, just little, but she was perfect. She just had trouble eating, and so for 7 weeks, we sat in the hospital with her as she learned to eat, and nothing I could do. I had to just sit and wait on her to learn that reflex on her own. I got real frustrated, and I sat there one night and I was praying, holding her, and I said, "God, I've been through a lot this year. Got an older brother that's battled an illness for 5 years, and now tonight he's doing wonderful. But at that point, he was back in the hospital in Dallas and was there a couple months. My baby brother's expecting to have a kidney transplant in the next year. Lost my daddy, and now here I am with this little baby in this hospital." I said, "God, what are you trying to tell me? What is it that you want me to learn from this?" It wasn't long after I prayed that prayer till this little nurse walked over and she said, "I know who you are." We talked for a little bit about our ministry, and I told her about a solo project that I had out and that I would bring her a copy the next day, and I did. And a couple days later, there was another nurse that came by and said, "I heard about your solo project. Do you think I could get a copy?" And I said, "Yes." And then the next day, there was another nurse, and this went on for several days. And so I passed them out. And one day I came back in, and that first little nurse looked at me and she said, "I want to talk to you." I said, "Okay." So we sat down, and she said, "We've been playing your CD a lot when you're not here." And she said the nurses and the moms, it sort of calms their fears and quietens the little ones here, soothes their little hearts. And she said, "It's really meant a lot to us." And she said, "My mother is dying with cancer, and I've been setting up nights with her when I'm not working, and I've been listening to that project a whole lot." She said, "There's one particular song that means a whole lot to me, and it talks about having peace in the midst of the storms." And I started to look around, and I saw these little babies that were in such terrible shape. Little Grace weighed a couple pounds and has 2 siblings in heaven already, lost to premature birth. Back there was little Jalen, and he was about 3 pounds, had a lot wrong with him. His mom was a 16-year-old unwed mother. I thought about what maybe those songs could be meaning to them. And then she looked at me, and I'll never forget it, but she said, "You may be wondering and questioning why you're here right now." And she said, "I'm sure this is a place that you don't want to be." But she said, "This was exactly God's divine plan because we needed you right now." She said, "I needed you, and I needed these songs to bring me through this situation." And she said, all these little moms that are here, she said, a lot of them are hearing about the peace of God and the hope that He gives for the very first time. You know what? I had to say, "God, I get it. Thank you. I know now why I'm here." You know what? You may be in a place tonight that you don't want to be. Could be physically, spiritually, financially, whatever the case may be. But let me tell you tonight, I assure you, it did not take Him by surprise. He knew all about it before it ever happened. He put you there for a reason. He will use you for that reason, and He will bring you out. And He will also give you His peace to go through it. This is the little song that sort of became the theme around that ICU for babies. And it talks about having peace in our storms.